Hello? Is this working? Alright. My name is Kelti McGlowan. I am 14 years old and I suffer from mental illness. I'm not exactly sure where and when it started. I remember being a small child around 6 or 7 years old. I remember being violently sad and crying for no apparent reason, knowing that I wasn't quite like every other little girl. It's not that I wasn't normal, it's that I just knew it wasn't quite usual to feel the things that I did. I remember being 9 years old, crying myself to sleep at night, looking sideways into a mirror and thinking I was fat. This was the 4th grade. I was a very sad human being. I learned how to cover up my sadness from everyone around me. If I kept good grades and a smile plastered across my face, everyone would leave me alone. And I guess that was how I liked it. I never really liked people. I loathed going out in public. I refused to leave the house at times. I felt as if everyone was staring at me, judging me, calling me names. I hated the way I looked. I hated looking in the mirror. I hated everything about myself. To have an entire merciless world see everything I disliked about me, forget about it. I'd rather just stay home and read a book. Going out would overwhelm my senses, especially in large crowds. I would begin to sweat heavily. I would start to hyperventilate. I'd have this overwhelming urge to cry. I learned later that those were called panic attacks. I remember the day I figured out something was gravely wrong. I was about 11 or 12. I went for a brief walk to clear my head because I had had a tough day. Crossing the street, I almost got hit by a car. In that precise moment, I realized that I wouldn't have cared if that car hit me or not. I wasn't actively suicidal, but I was sort of apathetic towards the world in general. I sat at the curb and cried for 15 minutes. At that point onward, I was sad all the time. I had zero energy. I couldn't sleep at night. I had to start taking medication to be able to sleep properly. And my head constantly felt like it was in some sort of fog, like I was on a cloud every single moment of the day. I wasn't living, I was simply existing, and that was a major problem. My seemingly bleak existence went on and on like that for what felt like eternity. It got to a point where I felt like killing myself. Every single night I would stare at the ceiling and pray that I wouldn't wake up the next morning. Every single day I would think to myself, I could do it tonight and no one would care. I don't matter. I'm worthless. Nobody cares if I'm here or not. Every single day felt like a hell with absolutely no escape. I was trapped and everything felt like it was over. I hated life and I hated everything. It only got worse in 7th grade when I was out of school for a while from an illness. My classmates isolated me. I had one friend left. Every other kid simply ignored my existence. I couldn't do or say anything to change it because I had just lost all will to live. My heart was a mess. My mind was a mess. Everything about me was a massive wreck. When I broke down at age 13 and told my mother about my suicidal thoughts, she placed me with a therapist, but that didn't really help much. We went there for a while, but decided to move on when we found the Atlantic Wellness Center. The way they've helped me has been outstanding. I'm happier, I'm healthier, I wear dresses with cats on it. I guess I'm the best that I've ever been. I have friends, I go out on weekends, and I have crushes on boys. I live life. Life is happy. Life is a lovely, lovely place that I should like to stick around with for a while. I don't know where I would be today if it weren't for the Atlantic Wellness Center. Mental illness affects us all at some point in our lives. You take a group of 3 teenagers, odds are one of them has a diagnosable mental health condition. And every single one of them in that 3-person group will be touched by mental illness at some point in their life. In fact, all of you in this very room will be touched by mental illness at some point. Maybe your parent has bipolar disorder. Maybe your cousin has anorexia, or your neighbor has social anxiety. Maybe you yourself have had a condition that you're battling at the moment or have battled with in the past. That's nothing to be ashamed of. nothing at all. The stigma surrounding mental illness needs to stop. Once we stop that stigma, then it'll be a lot easier for people who felt the way that I did to come forward with how they feel.